Hi, it's Gale from Spark. Welcome to my channel. Today I just wanted to come on and talk a couple minutes. I was having some conversations with friends the other day, and we were talking about how hard it is to kind of hold conversations with each other. Like, people just don't talk as much anymore. Things are very, you know, polarizing, and so much social media and so much going on. It's really hard just to sit down and look somebody in the eye and just have a conversation and enjoy each other's company. So I'm going to kind of give some tips for having harder conversations where you may not agree with somebody, or kind of how to go about that. So I have my pages here because you know how I am, I can't remember anything, so I'll be kind of glancing, but I'm here. so there's a couple different conversations that we have now. One of the hard conversations can just be with people that we know, right? um, so people that care about us, people that know us, friends, some of our neighbors that are friends, co-workers, spouses, those types of conversations where the person has some idea of who we are. So it's more likely that they'll be a little bit more open to what we're saying, even if we're not agreeing. So that's one category of who we have a conversation with. And there's just those can be a little bit easier because we know each other, right? And the other group is kind of strangers, people that in recent years, people have just come into this thing of like really getting in other people's faces with their views, and just it's kind of really hard, it can be really hard to kind of hold your ground and just speak clearly and say what you want to say, without feeling kind of under attack or things like that. So um, you know uh, engaging with those people, and I'm saying like neighborhood meetings, or panels of things, or school forums, or different places where you have conversations where it's more like strangers in a sense. So they may, those are a little bit harder because they may be less likely to respect you or kind of give you the time to say your piece, or that could be just be a little bit different when we don't know people. So just I think the important thing about that is just to be aware that that's the case, aware that people might not be as patient, aware that they may try to throw you off your center and try to not be as accepting of what you have to say. So that doesn't mean you don't say it, you don't speak from your heart. That just means be aware of who you're talking to. That can be a really important thing. I think one of when we're having hard conversations, I think it's really important to talk from our heart. I think that is the main takeaway from this video. It's just talk from your heart. Your heart is where your true beliefs are, where your values are, where your wisdom is. It's if you let yourself go into your heart space, you speak from calm and clarity, and what you really want and think and feel is in that heart center. So be mindful of your breath, kind of slow down, and just go to that heart space. And then once you're there, you are able to speak and proceed more respectfully, more compassionately, more clearly. And that's kind of the easiest and the most true way to go about having a conversation of things where you're not in agreement, or something's really hard to say, or you're just, things are at odds. So when you go into your heart space and when you communicate in that way, two things happen. One, you're expressing what you truly believe, and you can be heard and understood when you're calmly, compassionately, clearly coming from your heart space. It's just it's you're easier to understand. And we have these feelings at times where we kind of descend into this kind of tit for tat, kind of petty squabble stuff, and it just doesn't do anything for anybody. It doesn't get us anywhere. I don't feel heard. I know people that I've been unfortunate enough to go into that space with don't feel heard. I mean, we just don't. It's just not productive. It's not helpful. So, I think, just meaning what you say and coming from a space of clarity and compassion is going to be the best way to do it. And when you speak that way, the second thing that happens is you show respect for others, and you show respect for yourself. You show respect for your own truth when you speak that way. And sometimes you'll even feel it shift the dynamic of what you're saying. You'll feel the energy shift in the conversation when you're being clear and compassionate, and you're saying your truth. Like, people, respond to that. They may not understand it in the moment, but everybody responds to that. So it's a really important piece. So number two of kind of things to kind of do in a difficult conversation is just to remind the other person that you're listening. Let them know that you hear them. You may not agree, but you can look them in the eye, you can listen, you can respond, you can repeat things that they say to make sure you're understanding what they're saying. You can ask questions. And if you're more receptive, the other person is going to be more receptive, and it has more of a chance of kind of making things easier and making things more open. So also, again, and I said this a little bit before, but just slowing down. Like, when you're in a really tough conversation and things start to get heated or whatever, slow down and go back into that heart space. Connect with your breathing, connect with your heart. Give it time. That's where your wisdom lies. So the more you're able to do that, what comes out of you is going to be truth for you, and going to be what you want to share and how you want to share it. So that can take time. It can take, a little bit of a couple moments to kind of pull that together, but that's okay. If people respect you or they want to hear what you have to say, they're going to give you that time. And if they don't, you can still take that time. What that other person's doing doesn't matter. Speak from your truth. So, and the other thing is, it's okay not to have all the answers. Like, one of the great things about conversation, we learn from each other, but if you don't happen to have all the answers in a conversation, doesn't mean your views change, doesn't mean you aren't honoring your views. It just means there's something that you didn't consider or didn't know, and that's a huge, awesome part of conversation, is learning things you didn't know, and just being okay with not knowing absolutely everything. And maybe you go back, maybe that's a conversation for another day when but that's how we learn and grow, and that is a huge chunk of why we converse with each other. It's not to argue, it's to share and to grow and to learn stuff and to problem solve a lot of times, or to find some piece of truth that we actually both do agree on. So that's a really important part is just kind of slowing it down to where you're able to say what you want to say. So the other thing is, one of the other things that's really important when you're struggling with somebody, or you just don't agree and you're not understanding and you're getting really amped up, is to put on that person's hat for a few minutes. Even if you don't agree, put on that person's hat, see through their eyes, just take on their point of view for a few minutes and just see what it's like. That's, instead of going to, oh my God, you're so crazy, or oh my God, that's so stupid, put on their hat, put on their views for a couple minutes and just let it wash over you. Let it, try to understand, see where they're at. That can really open up communication with another person. That doesn't mean you're changing your views. That just means you're listening. And that's really important. And it also can be really, really hard if it's something, that hat can be really uncomfortable. It can be really difficult, but it's important to hear the other person because it opens the communication. And there's so many times when I've tried to do that, where when you dig down to the bottom of that, there is always something that the two of you can agree on. You find a little grain of truth, and that's some place to start. When you really don't agree, it's a place to start. Some value that you do share somewhere in all that disagreement. When you take on somebody else's perspective, there a lot of times there's a point where you will find some way to agree with each other. So lastly, I would say the one of the things, and I know everybody knows this, but just watching your social media and general media intake. Like, there is so much online that gets people upset and gaslit and just riled up. And for the presenters, that keeps you coming back, right? But for us, maybe not so good when we're taking that out on the people around us, or we're in a place where we just can't even hear anything anymore. So just watch how your favorite social media, or what you're allowing into your space, notice what it does to you. Are you anxious when you're done watching something? Are you angry? Are you really riled up? Are you thinking, oh, I'm better than all those dumb assholes? Like, it's just, living in that place is not good for us, especially when you have that going like 24/7, or you're constantly, listening to stuff that really gets you upset and anxious and angry, and it's just no way to live. Like, you just have to be very careful about what you let in your life. So that's a really important one, and I know that's hard for a lot of us, and we spend more time on social media than we do with our friends and family, but the important part is the people around us, and keeping communication open, and just sharing with each other. That's why we're here, right? So it's just something to keep your mind on, because when you're in that angry space, or that depressed space, or that feeling overwhelmed, or feeling hopeless after you get off of some of these places, it really takes us away from being clear, because you're not clear when you're in that state of mind. When you're furious, you're not being clear. You're not being honest with yourself. You're not being honest with other people. So it's really important just to limit how much of certain things you allow in your life, and just live it from a really clear, heart-centered space. So, and I think the other thing about when you don't know something, or somebody's bringing something to you you haven't known about before, I think just when you're learning about it, taking in information, searching for information, I think look for both sides. Like, when you Google something, Google the opposite of it as well, so you get all the information, so both sides, so you're willing to look at what somebody else is thinking. Like, it's important to get your media and your statistics and your stuff from like all sorts of places. Certainly you want to go to places that are fact-based, science sites, or educational sites, or government statistics sites, where you're actually looking at facts. But also, look at both points of view when you're doing your homework. That's a huge part of growing and learning, is to just accept those things and look at those things. But I think the biggest thing of today is just to go back to that heart center. When you're talking with somebody and you're not agreeing, and you could get really upset, just go back to that place where your true wisdom is. Talk clearly, talk slowly, be respectful, be listening, and that kind of, then you're teaching other people how to communicate as well. It's a lot to give also. So that's all. I just wanted to come on. I notice all around me people are struggling to communicate, and to just share good things with each other, and it's just, there's a lot of negative energy, a lot of polarizing people out there, and so I think it's just important just to listen to each other and look in each other's eyes and just talk from our heart center. And maybe people won't agree with us. That's absolutely fine. But just to be clear and stand in your own truth from a place of respect and compassion is like one of the biggest things we can do. And you're giving something to the other person as well when you do that. So, okay, so that's all there is today. Thank you for being at Spark. Thank you for coming today, and I will see you guys in the next video. And awesome. See you next time.